Morning, everyone, and welcome to our client webinar today. As all of you would be aware, we were really excited to announce the acquisition of Basiq the week before last. And what this acquisition does for both organisations, bringing together Australia's leading independent provider of payment services in Cuscal with Basiq, Australia's leading provider of data services. We've been overwhelmed with the positive response both from our clients as well as the market more generally in relation to this announcement. And we're really excited to see and explore what happens as we bring these two organisations together. So the purpose of our session today is to talk you through a bit about why we've done this acquisition, as well from a Cuscal perspective, also from a Basiq perspective, and also share with you current thinking on how we propose to move forward and work together. It's very early days. We probably don't have all answers to all questions that you might have, but we thought it would be a great idea to get us together really early on in the piece to share current thinking. So after I've finished opening today, you're going to hear from Jamie Leach, who's the domain lead for our regulated data domain. And Jamie's going to share with you the things that Cuscal is focused on right now from an open data perspective. And then we're really pleased to have the Basiq team, some of the Basiq team join us today. We've got Demir, the founder of Basiq, as well as Jim Basie and Adam Vidal with us. So we're all together. We are going to allow some time at the end of the presentation for Q&A. And if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A function, which is in that top bar of the Teams bar on your screen. So if you enter your questions there, we will get to them at the end of the sessions. So to kick us off, you probably have heard Cuscal at many different forums talk about how we see the convergence of payments and data coming together to provide a really explosive way to uplift customer experiences that can be delivered in Australia. And CDR really does present an amazing opportunity for that to be accelerated. So when I talk about payments and data coming together, I think there's a third piece there around digital ID that's probably really critical, but we are going to focus on payments and data together and the convergence that those two things can mean for delivering great customer experiences. So from a payments perspective, Cuscal has been investing for probably about 50 years now in the innovation of payments, and most recently really heavily invested in early innovation in real-time payments with MPP, and then last year being first to market with Pay2. So we're really comfortable with the market-leading position we've taken in relation to payments, real-time payments, as well as card payments, in fact, all payment channels in Australia. And when it comes to data, we have been focused heavily, probably for the last 10 years, in relation to data as it relates to our financial crime services. But then more recently, as CDR came to life in the Australian market, we have launched a data holder solution for many of our clients that has been live for some time, as well as you will have seen last year we announced the acquisition of MyCDR, and Jamie's going to talk to you a bit about what we're doing there and the plan around that. But that really was looking to bring a more holistic CDR solution to Cuscal that we can then deliver to our clients. Then more recently, we're now focused on data recipient, or the kind of services that we can deliver to you, our clients, that will enable you to really compete in the Australian market and take advantage of the data that's made available through CDR. And so therein lies the magic in this deal, in that we looked around the Australian market as well as globally to see what good looks like in relation to a data company that is delivering those kind of experiences that enable companies to really outcompete, in fact. And Basiq was top of that list, absolutely. So really excited to see how we can bring Basiq's capabilities to our clients from a data recipient as well as compete space. In the same way, I know that Basiq is really keen to see how they can supercharge their services to their clients in relation to a payments perspective. So we are bringing to life the convergence of payments and data through this acquisition, and really excited to share more with you today about this. So I will now hand over to Jamie, and then, like I said, following that, we'll hear from the Basiq team.
Thanks very much, Bianca. Now, I want to take you through a bit of a snapshot on what our domain is focused on at the moment. This acquisition is incredibly exciting to us because we are really incredibly invested in how the open data economy will come to be in this country, and more importantly, what it means for our clients and the usability of the consumer data right. So taking you through regulated data and payments, a rapidly evolving landscape. At the moment, Cuscal has for quite some time focused primarily on the data holder solution. And the data holder solution has a number of different components or parts to it, if you like. We often talk about data holder as if it's just a single piece of technology. The first one, and the first cab off the rank when the consumer data right went live, was product reference data, and we often forget about it because it's not the exciting part of data, but it was something that is incredibly important from a compliance perspective. And at the moment, we have a number of clients live with the product reference data, and as each new sector comes on board, that will once again start to play a part in the spotlight, if you like. So this is the publicly released general product data about products offered, covering fees and charges, discounts and other features. And that is something that we will continue to maintain and evolve as different sectors come on board. Following that, we have the traditional data holder solution. So this is the ability to obtain, store and manage a record of consumer consent to ensure lifecycle management of data is based on the terms of consent. I know it's not the most exciting part, but it is something that's incredibly important for our clients to do really well, and we are very proud of the solution that we have built. We also, in that data holder platform, have the transfer consumer data in a machine readable format. That is one of the compliance obligations. And last but not least is to implement privacy safeguards. One of the quintessential elements of the consumer data right is to uphold the privacy safeguards and to maintain the privacy of all of the users. But more recently, as Bianca raised, we have acquired the MyCDR data platform, and this is something that Cuscal felt was a bit of a missing piece in our arsenal in order to raise the health of the API environment for open data and the consumer data right. It's incredibly important to assist our clients in making sure that their systems continue to comply and continue to meet all of the obligations as part of accreditation. And what the MyCDR data platform actually does is it enables us to validate the data holder service conformance in a UAT environment and a production environment against the consumer data rights standards, and it allows for the continuous monitoring of data holders' APIs. So what that actually looks like as we start to go down is there are two versions of MyCDR data. There is a MyCDR data that is the free, readily available to the market version, which allows for monitoring of APIs and checking against your APIs in a production environment and a one-off consent for API availability. But a much more comprehensive solution is the MyCDR Data Pro, and this has some incredibly cool components to it, including the ability to check APIs in a UAT and a production environment, to continuously monitor your APIs for their performance and their compliance, to identify problems as they arise, to assist in you being able to debug your solutions, and to assist with that very important metric reporting, as you may know, is often challenging for our clients to successfully complete. But open banking, as we have seen it, is only one component. And as many of you will be aware, the changing landscape is when we start to see write access come on board, no longer just read access. And action initiation is currently in front of the Senate. It has passed the House of Reps, and it will actually allow for data holders to be able to carry out instructions such as opening and closing an account. And it will really bring about that mixing of the sharing of data with an action instruction, which may or may not lead to payments. It's just one of the most anticipated and exciting use cases that we could see. So, assessing the opportunity to innovate through future regulation. Personally, I have been talking about action initiation for a number of years now as being that supercharging element where we will see consumers really start to utilise the consumer data right. We've been criticised in this country as having a somewhat slow uptake of the consumer data right, which is probably not fair, because if we look at it in comparison to what we saw in the UK and Europe, it did take a number of years to hit that terminal velocity of not only consumers accessing the open banking world, but to have all of those providers, both the data holders and the data recipients, or TPPs as we see over there, really start to create those usability and use cases, if you like. So what the draft legislation around action initiation actually means is it's released draft legislation to expand the CDR functionality. It will make it easier and safer for consumers and small businesses to carry out everyday tasks online. These are not tasks dissimilar to what existed before the consumer data right, but it is thought by bringing them into that sphere, it will enable the safety and security that APIs allow. This will be the experience that customers will once again experience, but in a heightened and a much more secure way. Actions could include opening and closing accounts, making payments, applying through services. It's anticipated being able to port utility accounts or change the direction of mail. There is no shortage to what people are starting to think about on their whiteboards, and I'm sure there'll be no shortage to what your customers in turn would like to see through your products and services. That enhanced consumer experience is really going to come into play. It's important to note that all data holders will be required to act on a valid instruction from an accredited action initiator, aka a data recipient, should they receive it. And this is once again going to very much change the landscape of that feeling of having to comply. And that's something that Cuscal is very focused on at the moment. What does that mean for our clients and how we can assist you as you start to go through that process? Bianca also touched upon another subject, a bit of a pet subject of mine, in digital identity. And there is no shortage of discussion in the media, and I'm sure in all of your organisations, about what digital identity means for yourself and for your customers, especially after the number of high-profile cases that we've seen in the media, including the one last week in financial services. So digital identity is literally about protection, security, and consent. And this is an oldie but a goodie, but up to now, our face together with a government document is used to prove a person's identity. And sadly, that is still the case in 2023. The amount of times you're asked to provide your driver's license, a copy of your birth certificate, quite often sent as an attachment on an email as an unencrypted file. I'm sure it is something that is front of mind for all of us as individuals, but especially as businesses, as you try to navigate that challenging landscape. So at Cuscal, we really see this merger of regulated data and payments and the ability for digital identity to really enhance that consumer experience. And that is something that we will be very focused on and continuing to work with our clients, but also working hand in hand with the team at Basiq, because we're not the only ones thinking about this. So data is changing the world. Now is the time to lean in. I know I have had the privilege of saying that to a number of you as we go through our quarterly reviews, and it's something that I will continue to say because I am very proud to be a data nerd. So without any further ado, I am going to hand over to the wonderful team at Basiq. And Demir, I think you're going to share some words with the audience.
All right, we're officially unmuted now, so now we just have to work out how to share the screen. Cool. Can you guys see my Can you guys see the slides? Nope.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay, it's a copy of that one. Yeah.
This one, yeah.
Yep. So
Okay. Now if you go back across.
you do.
Can everyone see the deck now?
No. Just unshare
That's you got.
that.
Yeah,
Can you guys
good.
see
The presentation?
the presentation?
Yep.
Yep, with the slides. Yep. Cool. All right. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting. The opportunity to be able to work with the actual Cuscal team. One of the things that we see is this inevitable kind of path towards this combination of data, payments, and identity eventually kind of converging into one. So I think, you know, in a very kind of macro perspective, I think this was one of those hand and glove situations where we both have two very opposite kind of complementary items that bringing them together will provide a lot of value to the market. But let me give you a bit of a run through about Basiq, what we're about, and some of the services that we provide, and also give you a bit of an overview of what the outlook looks like for us. So the entire point of Basiq and why I started the business was I saw this fundamental transformation within financial services where all of the payments, for example, we went from a cash full world to a cashless world, and what that effectively meant is that money transformed into data, and this wonderful data that provides so much insights into us as consumers, where we're spending, how we're spending, where we're up to, and so forth, was just locked up in these databases. And the only way for us to be able to access this data has been through the financial institutions themselves. So the problem with that is that unless they innovate, we don't get the actual value out of it. So we realized that was this general kind of rise in demand of individuals with a lot of great ideas of being wanting to access this data so they can deliver effectively more value to the consumers. And that's where Basiq was born. So Basiq was born of the idea of providing a platform with a whole bunch of API services that enables other innovators, whether they're fintechs or banks, to be able to tap into and build new solutions on top of. And we've been, you know, when we kind of think about data, it's not just banking data itself. We're quite kind of fortunate that with the technology and the tools that we have, not only can we provide access to what's available for CDR, but we also provide other information such as data from super funds. We've also have data from some of the government services that we're able to kind of provide as well, plus payment providers, BNPL providers as well. So one of the things that we've tried to do is to make sure that rather than kind of waiting for CDR legislation to be put in place and force a particular industry to open up the data, we also try and get ahead of it as well to kind of look at, okay, well, what is the demand? What is the data that needs to be made available? And then we proactively build those services as well. So we try and bring the innovation a lot sooner. And then as CDR kind of comes within that industry, then we have the fortunate job of trying to transform our customers from leveraging these web connector or screen scraping services over to CDR-based compliance services as well. I think when we started, there was like one primary use case in terms of where the data could be used. And the most obvious one was lending, because it's such a data heavy, intense process. Lenders want to have access to data, they can work out the risks, they can simplify their origination and onboarding platform, and they can also use it to nurture customers as well along their journey. So even if they're not, they might not be ready for a loan just yet, they can help them with the budgeting and you know, getting that deposit ready so they can eventually buy their dream home. But what we've seen is that CDR and open banking as a whole is not just a single use case functionality. It actually spans across multiple different parts. So these are just a few of the kind of examples. On the left, you get to see all the different use cases where Basiq is used. So not only is it lending, but in BNPL, micro investing, specifically in terms of roundup solutions. So leveraging open banking data to work out the transactions, calculating the roundup amount, and then using that as a way to execute an actual roundup. We also have other kind of use cases where it's used for, to reduce fraud. So for example, we can, for the process of authentication, so i.e. getting the consumer to connect their financial institution, we can identify whether they're actually the owner of that account, because if they know the login and password, then effectively that proves they're the owner, and then we can get into it. And then not only do we prove that they're the owner, we also have the ability to return back account information as well. So we can then, rather than asking for individuals to nominate a BSB and an account number, we can automatically leverage the data that we return back. The consumer can then select as opposed to typing in, and we can also reduce any potential errors or somebody mistyping their account details. And then further to that, the fact that the consumer goes through the process and then sets up the ability to, share the data by setting up that particular consent. Now we've also have access to their account balances as well. So if you're collecting a payment, you can tap into open banking to see whether there's sufficient funds before you send that request to debit the actual funds as well. So not only do we provide all the services to enhance, the precepts of a payment, but also the actual payment as well by having data readily available. And then, how's this journey been kind of for us? Well, it's been kind of quite fun, adventurous, working with all different kinds of businesses. So some of the companies that we work with are as small as, 3 people who just kind of have that idea and want to bring their product to market. And then we're also fortunate enough to work with, large organizations who are on the forefront of innovation that are leveraging the data to help kind of drive more consumers to their platform or to their particular service. So I guess in the time and how it spans at the moment, we have approximately over 150 fintechs on our platform that are using to solve some of the use cases that I actually mentioned earlier, and that's across 12 different segments as well. So, and that's how, our focus is continually kind of challenging ourselves and saying, okay, well, now that we've got these customers, we provide them access to this data, what other services can we give them to help kind of drive more value to their consumers going forward? I guess at the foundation, and this is kind of what our secret sauce is from the actual platform, it's about ongoing consent. So I think when thinking about CDR and the power the data has, it's not a one-time access, it's a continuous access. So once a consumer consents to sharing, until they say stop or until that consent is revoked, you have the ability to continually access the latest transactions and the latest balances as well. And that changes the dynamic of the relationship that you have with the consumer, because you have a lot more information, it's continuous, and you get to see the fluctuations and the changes in their lifestyle, particularly when it comes to spending. And that gives you interesting information to be able to act on. The platform is use case agnostic. I think it's quite important. So we try and provide, similar to how Cuscal provides a very agnostic perspective as to what the payments are going to be used for. We try and do the same thing with data as well. And that can be sometimes an actual challenge, because we have, customers that want to kind of draw us into their specific use cases and want us to build a lot more. But, but the danger in that is that, we start to drift away from being a platform to being more of a, specific vertical solution, which we're quite careful of. Everything that we do within the platform is through the lens of the data itself. So whether we're looking at payments, whether we're looking at identity, we're always looking at it from a data lens. And what does that mean? Well, how do I leverage this, wealth and vast amount of data that we have and this richness of it to be able to solve or enhance payments, or to be able to solve and enhance identity and so forth. Service-based, so everything that we do is an API. So we're API first. We're incredibly proud to say that we don't have a single line of bespoke code that we've written for any individual customer. So every change or line of code that we write is for the platform, and the moment we commit that, it's available to everybody, and all of that's available as an API service. And then we also have a dashboard as well that follows afterwards that provides from a mouse-based or a visual-based kind of usage of what an API will do. So what that effectively means is that anything that the API does, you can do through our dashboard as well, which is quite interesting because, you know, it's a great way for somebody to engage and start to use CDR without necessarily having to do the development up front. So they can use the dashboard in a no-code based solution and then kind of migrate over to API. And it's a single consolidated platform, which is also kind of key, which means that the way we view the world is that provide one platform that can provide all the services. And I think that that's kind of the key and something we'll be looking forward to working with the Cuscal team over time to do. Fundamentally, how does it work? Well, you've got the consumer on the right, you've got the application on the left, and the basics here in the middle to help broker the relationship between the consumer and your application or your service that you have to offer. And by brokering that relationship, or sometimes referred to as a consent, we then provide, on the back of that consent, we provide you all the services that you need to be able to continue to deliver value to your end consumers. And just as an example of something we've done recently, so we launched this at the end of last year, where we took that data lens and took that payments and said, well, how do we create, an enhanced kind of experience around that? And one of the things that we did is we took something as boring and as simple as direct debits, and we enhanced it through the use of data. So now, if you're looking to deploy direct debit services while we're waiting for Pay 2 to kind of come about and be the success that we all kind of hope and envisage it to be, what you can do with something as simple as direct debits is you can now simply take the basic UI and embed it within your service offering, and we will facilitate the connectivity to the banks. We will prove that the individual is the owner of the account. We'll return back the account information, and then we'll use that account information to set up a direct debit authority. And then on the back of that, you can also then, whenever a direct debit needs to be executed, you can use the basic platform to check the actual balances. And all of this works with minimal line of code, and it's very easy to deploy and use. And then, I guess, finally, something that we're kind of quite proud of and something that we try and work really hard on is making sure that we take a very much kind of what we call a SaaS-based approach to the way we deliver services. So our number one enemy is friction, and something that we kind of battle with all the time. So how do we reduce the friction for an organization to be able to take their ID to market in the fastest possible time, but by also satisfying all of the rules as well? And what that means is that we're continually investing in SDKs, in documentation, in sample projects, in sample code. We have a very rich and dedicated kind of local support team that not only provides onboarding assistance, but it's also able to provide development assistance as well for anybody that's looking to use the actual basic platform as well. And then we continually challenge ourselves on the API as well, making sure the APIs aren't overly complicated and that it's very easy for someone to satisfy their immediate need, but also kind of grow as their business needs to as well with that. So that's a little bit about Basiq. And I think kind of looking forward, what our kind of challenge is now is to kind of work with the Cuscal team and to see how do we kind of take that wealth of payment services that they have and be able to kind of somehow, package it and intertwine it with the data service that we're able to provide, so we can provide you and your business the ability to, tap into that so you can deliver more innovation effectively to your customers. And I think that will be a very pleasant, progress kind of going forward, because at the moment, if we look at the realities of the way you would bring data and payments together, it would effectively mean two different organizations with two different agreements, two different sets of APIs, a lot of complexity, a lot of development work, and that's something that we're very committed to kind of solving over time. And that's it. I'm done with my presentation, and I think we're going to open up for questions after this. Jim, how do we stop the sharing?
Thanks very much, Damir. We're here for questions. I can't see any that have come through now, but if there is anything that you'd like to know, we will do our best to try to answer. Between Bianca, Demir, and myself, we are more than happy to try to field any questions. Also, whilst I'm waiting for any questions to come through, I just want to remind you that you can reach out to your current account managers, relationship managers with any questions that may come to mind, even after the webinar is finished, or any feedback that you have on what you would like us to consider as part of our roadmap or the planning process as we start to bring the two organisations together, particularly in the regulated data and payment space at Cuscal, and then the team of Basiq as well, with all of the wonderful things that they're working on. We still don't seem, I'm not sure if it's working properly, Bianca and Demir. We have a very quiet crowd out there. I think maybe we can take it that we've just dazzled everybody and they've got so much to digest and think of. They're not sure where to start. Bianca, you were recently at an event where we started to see some of our clients bring some questions to us about how excited they were. I'm wondering if there's any themes or anything that you started to see from clients that you might be able to share that will maybe prompt some questions by this audience.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, we had a client session last week with a number of different clients, both banking clients as well as non-banking clients, so paytech organisations. And I think it's fair to say that all of our clients are really sort of at the early stages of understanding how open banking as well as data more generally, and I think Demir's given us a really great overview of the plethora of data that could be available to be consumed. So I think all of our clients are staring into what does this mean for me and how do I take things from here. So that one of the big questions that I think is something that Cuscal and Basiq intend to come back to you on is, what is the decision-making process from here? So understanding the problems in your business that you would like data to help solve, and then how we can package up solutions for you that will really solve those problems. I think every organisation that we speak to knows that there is something in data that they need to tap into and utilise. And I think it's on us to come back to you to really lay some proposals up as to how we see that benefiting your business. So I think it was really positive feedback, but please tell me what to do was kind of the main question, and you know, we're planning on doing that.
Thanks very much, Bianca. Thanks very much, Bianca. And we, as with all webinars, we're waiting to see where our little talking head lights up again before we speak. So we've got a comment as opposed to a question. Rick has written that it is pleasing to see that other industry data will be available via the platform, including energy, telco and finance. And I think this is a sentiment that all of us involved in this webinar very much agree with. Banking was always designed to be the first cab off the rank, but certainly not the only cab off the rank. We can all clearly, you know, envisage what a true open data economy might look like in the digital transformation of Australia. And in a lot of ways, Australia really is leading the world on that multi-sectoral approach. And companies such as Cuscal and Basiq and leaning into this hopefully will be at the forefront of all of this amazing opportunity in legislative reform. I can see we've got our little fairies typing back, thanking Rick very much for his comment. Are there any other questions that people have?
Jamie, I would just love to add to your statement is just the kind of the fortunate and unfortunate predicament that we're all in as a organisation and, you know, businesses within Australia. something, something that we see a lot is this comparison of how Australia is doing to the UK when it comes to open banking. The unfortunate truth is all of that is that it's not the same. It's actually significantly and very, very, very different. UK open banking is open and closed. It's data and payments, and that's it. In Australia, open banking at the moment is data only, and open banking is just a very small subset of this very big and ambitious program called CDR. So what that means is that we're definitely, as a nation, on the forefront of innovation, and we actually don't have anybody to copy of. So all of that innovation is left to, I guess, the audiences in the room, is to kind of tap into those data sources, look at this fortunate set of data that we have that nobody else globally is able to access, and to work out how you're going to leverage that to deliver value to your consumers. And just on that, one of the things that kind of caught me, very kind of pleasant surprise is that if you look at the new standards for telco from a data perspective, and if you look at energy, I would say over 50% of them are actually to do with payments. So they provide all of the invoices that have been executed, they identify all the bills that are coming up, they identify all the payment instructions that are held at hand within those institutions as well. And then, so I think that's where we're going to have, it's a bit of a kind of challenge. And I think the whole kind of part of CDR was to develop a program that will enable our organizations to compete and innovate on this as well. So I think as much as it is our job to try and work out how do we deliver these services to you, it's also equally, a challenge for all of the businesses out there to tap into those data sources and say, well, how am I going to leverage that to my benefit and to deliver more value to my consumers as well?
Thanks very much for that, Damir. Couldn't agree more. What I would like to say to all of our clients, as well as all of the Basiq clients, is bring us your ideas, bring us your thoughts. I love where I go and see our clients and I have them sort of lower their voice and say, Jamie, we're thinking of something really weird. Can we share it with you? And I get so excited because it is this out of the box thinking. It's this envisaging for what works with your brand, what works with your clientele, where you are in your journey as a bank at this stage, a financial services firm, but increasingly we're going to see all other sectors. So we want to hear your weird, we want to hear your crazy ideas. Let us try to help you work out how you can achieve that, because it's that out of the box thinking that's really going to enable this open data economy to take hold. So yeah, we want to hear it. We want to hear if it's a comparison thing, if it's the ability to enhance the way your customers access their data, if it's going to help them change the way that they do business for SMEs or individuals. You got to remember, this isn't just a consumer, it's also for the SMEs and businesses as well. And what we might see out of that is we have different clients that focus on different segments. And their needs might be seen to be slightly different, and that's really good as well. So end of the day, reach out to your account managers, reach out to any of us. I think we've still got 15 minutes or so up our sleeve. If anybody wants to come out and make a comment or ask a question, please don't be shy. You don't have to speak, you just have to type into that Q&A box up the top. You don't want to see me tap dance. It's not pretty. Alrighty. Bianca, Damir, if we don't get a question in a few moments, can I ask if there's any closing thoughts that you might, maybe I'll start with Bianca. Would you have any closing thoughts of? I
think we've covered everything, Jamie. I think I'm really keen to, this is the first of many discussions. So thank you all for your time this morning. Hopefully we've given you an insight as to what we're thinking and how we're looking to progress. So yeah, just thank you for your time. And this is the first of many conversations.
Great. And I guess from my perspective, I guess for all the organizations out there, and I'm going to try and be not be biased, but be kind of a realist. Data is here, it's available, and there's a lot of different organizations using it. If you don't have a data strategy, you should, and I think it's really kind of important. And what I would urge you is to look at it for the lens of with this abundance and vastness of data, how can I enhance the services that I have to offer? And if that's, and I'm sure that that itself unpacks a whole lot of kind of questions in terms of, but hold on, before I even get there, what is available? How does it work and all of that? Well, you've got a very dedicated team here who's willing to support you. So if you do have any kind of questions, please feel free to jump on the Basiq website. We've got a contact us form, and I can promise you that we've got a very eager team who's more than happy to kind of jump on a call, educate you, and help you kind of work out what that strategy is as well.
And I guess I'll just wrap up by saying this intersection of regulated data, payments and identity is undeniable. It is a freight train that is bearing down on all of us, and it is certainly nothing to be feared. This is potentially the most exciting thing that will happen in this country, both digitally for organisations like your own and for consumers at the end. So if you don't know how to get on board, that's what we're here for. Just know that this is a really, really exciting time, and the team at Cuscal and Basiq are going to be putting our heads together to work out how we can solve it for you all. So thank you very much for your time, and have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.